It's Dave Johal once again for Punchout Boxing. Pleased to be joined by my fabulous colleagues in the north, in the south, technically in the middle sometimes as well. Ra Hokum and Carl Hall. How are you guys?
Very
Fab.
well, very well.
Spring's here. The sun's out. Carl's over there in Florida State, according to his shirt. So he's well and truly in the throes of summer. So, yeah, and Carl, tan's coming on nicely, by the way. But stay,
Oh,
stay on Miami Beach or wherever it is you are. So good on you.
I wish, I wish I was there. I'm a big fan of Florida, hence the supporting of some of the universities over there. Maybe not the politics side of things at the moment, but yeah, I do wish I was there.
Yeah, I mean we can get into a different podcast regarding that and the possible return of Trump in 2024, but we won't talk about that. But one thing we are going to talk about is Haney versus Lomachenko, the result. And I'm going to say it straight away. And for those who disagree with me, this is a place of opinions. I did not see a robbery. I've watched the fight back. I don't know what this robbery talks about. Carl, Raw, any thoughts? You've watched it back. What do you think?
Literally just finished it. Literally just finished it, and even gone into it with the view that there could be a potential robbery there. I think when we go into it in detail, I've even probably been a little bit kind to Lomachenko in some of the early rounds, and still there's no robbery. I don't see where that's come from at all. The only thing I can think of is that everyone's literally just based it off the last three rounds and forgot the rest of the fight.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And Raw, you've watched it back as well. What are your initial thoughts?
I concur. Absolutely no robbery. I watched it with the audio off. And I scored it 7-5 for Loma. I wanted Devin to win, so maybe subconsciously I was overcompensating. But no way was it a robbery. It was, I think, 7-5 either way. Or, if you may recall, my prediction was that it'd end in a draw. And precisely because I thought such a high level technical fight as it turned out to be, there's every chance that it'd be very difficult to separate them, and that whether any one of them would be able to fully establish domination in the majority of rounds, and that's how it turned out. So yeah, although I scored it 7-5 for Loma, but by no means was I convinced of it. They probably each only won about 2 rounds each, like clearly.
Yeah,
The other 8 rounds could have gone either way. So yeah, I think that I don't know what all the hysteria is about. I still say that young Devin, he gets so much hate considering what he's done. I do think that his somewhat negative style and the lack of having a crowd pleasing style, that's making a lot of people sort of downplay what he's doing in the ring. But nothing in the rule book that says you got to be entertaining. It's about landing punches. And yeah, I don't think it was clear at all that Loma did more of that in more rounds. So, nah, perfectly legitimate score.
yeah, I concur. I mean, I scored it just for Haney. However, I could see if it could be a draw. If you scored it 7-5 for Lomachenko, I could agree with that as well. Some of the rounds, Carl and Ra, they were very, very, very close. Dominance was shown in 2 rounds convincingly by Lomachenko. I think it was rounds 10 and 11, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And 8 was very, very much, in my opinion, in Lomachenko's favour as well.
yeah, I agree
But
with that.
but again, I could see that the work that Haney was doing at the beginning of half of the fight, which was going to the body, landing some clean shots to the body. But then I could argue back for Lomachenko. was that part of the game plan to take it on during the latter half of each round? So robbery for me, guys, would be Sven Otka versus Robin Reed, which would be Holyfield versus Holyfield versus Lewis Wong. Those for me are the biggest robberies that I can think of in my in my lifetime so far that I can actually remember. Carl, what are your thoughts on that in terms of robberies that you've seen and calling this a robbery?
There's just no way in any way, shape, or form that this is a robbery. Even if you strip this back to its barest form of scoring it, and we're just looking at CompuBox stats, nothing else, just CompuBox stats. Haney wins the fight by a round. Well, no, sorry, just on Punchout button in terms of what he scored, I think he wins it 7-5. And I had Haney 140, 115, 114 because I give one of the rounds a draw because I genuinely couldn't separate it. That being said, like I said, so a couple of the rounds were so close. You could have given it Lomachenko. I decided to give it to Haney just because he'd landed one more shot, but I felt he was controlling the ring more and I felt he was defensively doing very well. And his punch output was more efficient. Lomachenko was having to throw 5-10 more shots to land one more shot in some of these rounds, and that's it. And I was just looking at it as a purely from an objective standpoint, and like, right, who's landing more shots and who's coming in with the most efficient work. And for me, throughout the fight, that was Haney up until the last 3 rounds. And I agree with you. I thought Lomachenko took the 8th round clearly, and he definitely took the 10th and 11th. Even round 12 was subjective. So I absolutely would have had no reason, no issue with Lomachenko winning the fight 7-5. I think there was definitely grounds for that. No issue with a draw and no issue with Haney winning. Where this robbery's come from, I don't know. It's a difficult fight to score.
Yeah, I agree with you. And guys, do you think that if you look at the fight week, let's just say it was billed as a chess match, which in hindsight, in foresight, looking back at it now, hindsight, whatever you want to call it, it kind of was because each round was very, very close.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, with Haney pushing Lomachenko, calling him a dirty fighter, he almost had, if we take wrestling terms for a second, he almost had this heel persona. And do you think that when it comes to general public, that made them subconsciously think, okay, we want Haney to lose, and this is where subconsciously this is coming from?
For me, I think there's a lot of that, and I genuinely think, and people might disagree with this and think it's a bit of a cop out. I think with everything that's going on in Ukraine as well, people have still got that and thought Lomachenko's looked at as a little bit of a hero, and Haney was looked at as the villain. So I absolutely agree that was probably playing on people's minds as well. And I think Ra saying that he listened to it with a commentating commentary off was absolutely what I would have done. I didn't because I wanted to see what people were talking about regards, because some people that are in our camp saying that it wasn't a robbery were saying that a lot of the commentary were very animated towards Lomachenko, and they definitely were. I felt that way with the Katie Taylor Chantal Cameron fight, if I'm honest. Some of the minute amount of work that Lomachenko was doing early was being given a lot more credit than what Haney was doing, which I felt was unjust. So yeah, I think that played a huge factor.
Yeah, and I think, Rob, what's your thoughts on, does Haney need to replay this back? He's got nothing to prove, or does he have to replay this back?
No, because I think already, as we're approaching not even a week gone by, some of the people that in the immediate aftermath of the fight who were shouting robbery, they're saying, actually, having watched it back, nah, actually, I mean, Shakur Stevenson, his rival, for example, he's actually now come back and said, yeah, since watching it back, actually, no, it was pretty close, and the scoreline was fair. And I think we're going to get a lot more of that, that as people watch it again, I think a lot of the immediate sort of sentiment towards a Loma win, I think it will get to wane somewhat. As Carl said, I'm sure a lot of the crowd were on his side. you know, there's the whole sort of sympathy with Ukraine, that sort of thing coming into play. And also, I think in terms of the boxing fraternity in America, this has been a problem for as long as I've followed the sport. I think they somewhat downplay Devin's achievements because he went over to Australia. Now, there still is this mindset in the American fight fraternity that if you're not American, you probably aren't that good. So the fact that he went and got the belt from Kambosos in Australia, I get the impression they still think, yeah, well, it weren't that great an achievement, you know, because he was only an Australian. I mean, I still get that sentiment. Because they still seem to be portraying Kambosos' win over Lopez as if it was just a fluke. That was a one-off. He got lucky on the night. And that's always been the American way. So I think that's a large part of why the fight fraternity in America downplayed Devin's achievements, and the fact that he hasn't got a particularly crowd-pleasing style. But as you guys both know, some of the greatest fighters in history weren't KO artists and weren't particularly exciting necessarily. I think Devin might be one of those fighters that probably doesn't really get credit for his abilities until after his career's over.
Yeah, I agree. I think
Yeah.
like that for me, especially after watching that, and I hope this is the case for a lot of people. That's drawn me towards him even more because I was very impressed with how he dealt with Lomachenko, trying to find the angles, and I thought his body work was exceptional. So, we all love to watch knockout artists, but I actually thoroughly enjoyed watching that fight. I really did. I thought it was a brilliant tactical fight, and he absolutely deserves some plaudits. I do agree with you. I think there's not enough purists that watch the sport anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah. But sorry, I didn't actually answer your question in terms of should he take a rematch? No, I don't think he should. I think he's probably pushed the envelope as far as it can go in terms of weight making. At 24, he's now in his mid-20s. You got to remember, he started his career at lightweight. So he's not like guys like Shakur and Loma who started at featherweight. He started at lightweight and he's just been getting bigger and bigger in the weight, and it's becoming harder and harder. I don't think anyone, again, serious fans, could belittle him for moving up now. I mean, he's gone away from home to win the Undisputed title, defended it immediately away from home again, and then defended against the best available contender, who was considered by many actually still the best lightweight in the world. If weight making is becoming too difficult, which it almost certainly is, we'll go to 140, and there's no shortage of exceptional opponents for him there. And as I say, a lot of people are saying, oh, he's looking to duck Shakur. Well, nah, Shakur started at featherweight. He hasn't grown into his full weight yet. I think what Devin said, that we'll meet one day at 140 if need be, that's legit, because they'll still be in their prime. It's not like there's a big age gap between them.
Yep.
There's only a few years age gap between them. When Shakur's size has caught up, that they can fight on equal terms at 140. And again, no one can say, well, 140 is a weak division that you're going up to. It's arguably as hard.
Yeah.
And Lopez is there now. Ryan Garcia is going up there, and Tank absolutely can fight there because he's already won a secondary belt there. So at least 3 of the so-called 4 kings are already there or have been there. So absolutely, I think he should move to 140 before the weight making forces him up.
And what's your thoughts, guys, on Lomachenko? Where could he go next? Because if this rematch with Haney doesn't happen, I mean, where does he go from here?
You know what? I think the version of Loma we saw there would still more than be capable of beating every other lightweight on the planet, except possibly Shakur. That said, Shakur Stevenson is still based on the eye test. We don't know how good he is at lightweight really yet, because he hasn't fought that level of opponent. So, but yeah, I would not be surprised at all if Loma, if he's still motivated and wants to keep fighting, if he was to upset either Tank or Shakur, and him against any other lightweight, him winning, I don't think would be an upset. So I absolutely think he can be a world champion again. Of course, it's a pity he probably won't be undisputed, because if Devin does move up and vacate, well, obviously all the belts are up for grabs again. So, but absolutely, he's if he wants to keep fighting, he's still one of, if not the best lightweight in the world.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, Carl, what's your thoughts on Devin Haney's tweet? I'll read it out to you if you haven't seen it. This guy is an effing sore loser. Get this privileged sore loser out of boxing. He makes excuses as he goes. Take your, I'm supposed to say loss, but take your loss like a man and stop crying. It was set up for you to win for the third time in your career, and you failed. Tell the commission, give me my 400k back for that push.
I think he's probably a little bit frustrated with the backlash that he's got with regards to this apparently being a robbery, and he probably feels very insulted because obviously his work's gone under the radar yet again. So I understand his frustrations, but to call him a sore loser, I don't think that's very, it's not entirely justified, is it? I mean, Lomachenko has a reason to think he won the fight. He's probably going to get carried away because everybody's going to be in his ear saying, "Oh, you've been robbed, you've been robbed, you've been robbed." And at some point, you're going to start believing that. So, is he probably going to have a few outbursts and may come across as a bit of a sore loser? Devin Haney's probably going to see it that way. But this is just, this happens time and time again, where the media narrative gets pushed. It doesn't go the way that the media want it to happen. And then all hell breaks loose afterwards, and everyone jumps on the bandwagon, and it's just ridiculous. And like you've already said, until people actually take a step back and watch the fight back and let their emotions sit aside, everyone can see, away from the red mist a little bit. So, honestly, if I was him, I'd have probably just carried on and just left it and not come out with anything like that. But I understand his frustrations, to be fair. When you've got everyone in your ear saying that you shouldn't have won, which it's bollocks, to be fair, let's be honest. There's absolutely every right to have won that fight. I kind of understand it to a certain extent.
You know what? I personally don't read too much into it. And in fact, from both fighters' point of view, that's what I want to see. As the great Bill Shankly said, show me a good loser, I'll show you a loser. By rights, these are both guys that want to be the best. They shouldn't be taking losses especially when it was that close. So yeah, that good on them, both fighters. Devin, he should now have a chip on his shoulder, and he should go out there and say, yeah, look, everyone's against me for whatever reason. Let me carry on going out there. I'm going to keep fighting the best and beating them, and stick two fingers up at everyone. And Loma should do the same. And he should go away and say, yeah, look, I keep getting robbed in America. But, the next one, right, Tank Davis, I'll take him on, the golden boy of the sport. I'll beat him this time. And, yeah.
The face of boxing.
I'm good. Good. Yeah, the face of boxing.
Apparently. Before we go into what was, in your opinion, the worst robbery you've seen, because that's the next question that's coming up. In regards to the whole, the Devin Haney, the alleged controversy, does it remind you a bit of Floyd Mayweather and De La Hoya and fights like that, where early on in his career he was being touted as someone, not touted, but he was, they were seen as robbery, shall we just say? Does it remind you a bit of that, the hatred?
Dave, that's a misconception. Early on in his career, Pretty Boy Floyd was actually a devastating puncher. It's just
knocking people out.
People have long forgotten about it. Money Mayweather is the one that, yes, I see what you mean, that he then became much more defensive, more negative. But you got to remember, that weren't the peak Mayweather. He was well into his 30s himself and fighting much bigger men. That's the only way he maintained his extraordinary longevity. So yes, it is similar in that sense, but I don't think it's exactly the same situation, because Devin is actually young in his physical prime. Mayweather, when he was getting a couple of those close decisions, and that's what they were. I don't think Mayweather ever got gifts. They were close decisions. Yeah, I guess a few of the fights could have gone either way. Similar to this, it was really closely scored, but I don't think Mayweather was ever the beneficiary of a robbery. But yeah, I suppose it's similar in the sense that because of the negative style, people wanted to see him get beaten.
And that's what I was, and that's what I was getting at. But out of interest, Ra, we'll go to you first. What's the worst robbery you've seen in the sport, in our beloved sport?
I would say actually Catterall v Taylor.
God, yeah, nearly forgot about that.
Again, because I was ringside.
Yeah.
Because I was ringside, I was that convinced that Catterall had won at least 8 rounds clearly. On top of that, he got a knockdown. On top of that, Taylor had a point deducted. All of those things together, I just thought, yeah, it's just unfathomable that he didn't get that. But yeah, maybe it's because it's sort of fresh in my memory, and like I said, because I was ringside for it, so I got to see it up close. For me, though, it would be Catterall's against Taylor.
Carl, what about yourself? Ringside or ever?
Completely forgot about that one, which is ridiculous considering not long interviewed Taylor. But do you know what? And you know how big of a Canelo fan I am. I've got 2. So Manny Pacquiao, Timothy Bradley. I think that was ridiculous for a start. And actually, I thought Erislandy Lara outboxed Canelo all fight, and how he didn't come away with a decision was ridiculous. I think that's a tough one for me to say, but yeah, Erislandy Lara, unbelievable technician, and he outboxed Canelo like ridiculously. So I think probably that one, to be fair.
And don't worry, hopefully when you're there ringside, you won't see many robberies. For me, it's bad me saying this because I was there ringside, but I'd have to say Smith versus Ryder. I believe Ryder won ringside, watching that fight, and so did many others. Fighters can have bad days at the office, and I think that was a bad day at the office for Callum Smith, but a very, very good day for John Ryder, and I think he deserved to have his hand held at the end as champion. And watching it from a screen again, it's my man Sven Otka. Sven Otka versus Robbery. That was absolutely horrendous. And I keep on saying to people, if you want to see what a robbery is, watch that fight. That was an absolute robbery. Robin Reed at the end told I think it was the journalist saying at one point I got told off for hitting him. It was that bad. It was that bad. And obviously the king of robberies, I suppose, the fight that always comes to most people's mind is Holyfield versus Lewis One. A complete bizarre result. Bizarre, strange in every way. You can watch that again and again and you just think, how? Why? What were people watching? But definitely Sven Otka. If you haven't seen it, guys, watch that one. So there you have it. We didn't think it was a robbery. We thought it was a close fight, unified in our thoughts. Definitely let us know what you thought as well. So put your comments down if you feel strongly about it. If you think that we're in the wrong on this, that's fine. And let us know what your favourite robberies are. Well, not favourite robbery, but let me know what the most controversial robberies in your opinion are. What are we all up to this week then? So, Ra, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I'm off for a day at the seaside, Bournemouth, for Ockley's defense in his former gym mate's hometown, Chris Smith. So that'll be good fun. Me and Rico of Sporting Icons, we do a little podcast on iBoxing Hub, which is all just fun and games, but we're planning on doing one sort of beach side. So it's going to be, yeah, you'll love it, Carl, being a Miami Beach type guy. Yeah, we'll be there.
I actually used to live in Bournemouth, so for 3 or 4 years. So I'm very jealous. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, so we'll be shirts off, working on our tan. Yeah, just what the viewers want. So yeah, that'll be a bit of fun. But yeah, and of course I'll be at the Vitality Arena for the fight.
Yeah, it should be a good fight night. Could go, when we talk about crowd pleasing, should we just say that could be the fight that could be the least crowd pleasing fight on paper? But we don't know. This is the thing about the sport. We just don't know what's going to happen on the night. Hopefully it's a good night. I'll be over in Manchester on Friday and Saturday. Saturday for fight night for Lara versus Wood 2. Will it be repeat or revenge? Carl, hopefully you can join me at the weigh-in on Friday. That'll be great. So both of us getting those all-important interviews pre-fight night and also on the night of the fight as well. So hopefully we've got some great content coming in. Just very finally as well, I suppose, what's your thoughts on the results of both of those fights, guys? So we'll start with Akali versus Billum Smith first. I think it's going to be Akali on points. Carl, what do you think? It might not be really crowd pleasing, I suppose.
Yeah, I hate being like that because I was really excited to go and see Akoli ringside, and Jesus Christ, it was a stink fest. It was, but he's still winning, and he said himself, he's beating everyone that's put in front of him, so
Yep.
He's doing his job, and I can't see anything other than an Akoli win, if I'm honest. After seeing what he's like ringside, I don't expect him to knock him out, so I'd probably go with the points win as well.
And what about yourself, Carl? Rob, you're going to be there?
Yeah. Well, Ockley's a local boy, so I'm going to back him. Although I do like Chris Smith as well. He's obviously shouted us out. Great guy. I'm going to go for an Ockley stoppage. I just think because Chris is fighting in front of a roaring home crowd, I think he will really go at Ockley, and he'll be probably a bit more open than some of Ockley's recent opponents have been. I don't think it'll be a devastating knockout. I think maybe something similar to Joe Joyce's recent defeat, like maybe a closed eye or an injury of some sort, a cut, maybe mid to late rounds.
Okay. And final one then, Lara versus Wood 2, Manchester, DAZN match in boxing. What are your thoughts? Do you think it will end the same way? Do you think Wood gets it back this time? What are your thoughts, lads?
I can't see it. I can't see past Mauricio Lara, if I'm honest. These Mexican boys just keep coming over and getting the job done against the Brits, and they're lovely Wood. But the Mexicans are a different breed when they're at that sort of level, and I can't see anything other than a similar result personally.
And Rob, what do you think, mate?
I'm going against the grain here as I like to, but I actually do think I think Lethal Lee can do it. I think Lara will just do what he always does. He won't change things up, but Wood will, and I think that will be Lara's undoing. I think Wood will this time concentrate for the full 12 rounds and box his way to a decision. And I'll tell you what, I think that the fact that Ben Davison threw that towel in when he did, that's why I give Wood a chance this time. Because if he was allowed to take another shot, then that would have been him done at this level. So, yeah, I'm going to go for a Wood points decision.
Yeah, I'm going with what you're saying, Ra. I think Lee Wood would have learned after that defeat. However, Mauricio Lara does carry the power to stop people, including Lee Wood. That was a devastating knockdown. So yeah, there you have it, guys. thanks for joining the call today, guys. Make sure you hit subscribe, like, and tell your friends as well. But we'll be there on Friday and Saturday, so look out for all the content. And we've got some more shows coming up next week as well. And thanks for all your support, guys.